All right, so I've had to moving on with the uh, what Spaceman is calling a solenoid motor, which is true. In taking it apart, you can see kind of that that particular coil holder got bent. Now it's really easy for me to fix, but I also noticed that one of my coil ends, one of the round ends, is kind of warped. That's not really a big deal. But I am going to, I've taken out some of the magnets. That was a mistake starting right off. I should have been doing this on the metal plate because they got me. They snapped at me a couple of times. So before I take the rest of these out, I will put down the metal plate. But I'm going to try to bend that guy over using a heat gun. If that doesn't work, I'm just going to reprint them. The rollers are doing fine. I'm actually thinking about opening up the hole in the coil holder to actually give the coil or the rotor some more room to pass through after I bend this back. It has a little lip there to hold it, but I don't think that's absolutely necessary. Um, yeah, so what I may do is I may open this up because it passed through the coils no problem. It was just rubbing on this outside edge here where I have the red X. Um, but yeah, and then I think in the meantime too, I built another 3D printed rotor setup, and I'm using the ceramic bearings. And I've got the magnets for these guys. And I think I'm going to set that up and see if I can get it going. My dear friend, Sky Collection, sent me two beautiful, well, didn't send me, I bought two beautiful, oh, well, yeah, he sent them to me. Two beautiful JL94 circuits that are a little different from the other ones. They're pretty much the same. They just use different capacitor or different color capacitors. But he sent them to me in these beautiful cases. I gladly paid for them because I love the way he builds circuits. I think I might have damaged a couple of the magnets here. Yeah, I flaked them a little bit, but they're all right. But I will use the metal sheet that I have down there to pull them. But while I'm doing that, I want to rig up something. Like I said, I want to set this guy up. I've got two of those. And I also have this beautiful, what do you call it? VCR bearing or VCR hub. These are some of my other, my workspace is a real freaking disaster. It is an absolute disgrace. It's a mess. But anyway, I also made some 3D printed mounts for my vise that have magnets in them. Those things work good. And I decided I wanted to put some resin on these. I don't even know why I did. I think to make it softer. It turned out to be a disaster. So resin on 3D on PLA does not work. But I do want to revisit some of my other rotors. I don't know if you can see down there. I've got the monster rotor that's still kicking. And there's my old assembly over there. But I want to get that monster rotor again with the JL94 circuit and this bad boy right here. But I've got to continue working on this guy. So hopefully I can get him back together today and report back. So really quick, if you ever have a stuck screw, and I'm sure you guys have seen these before, right? They're the easy outs. where you drill with one side and then screw out with the other side. Well, I've never had any success with these, and I realize why. I was always using the one that was too small, thinking that, that would be the one to use because it's a small hole. When in fact, when I used the bigger one, they came right out. And I had two of these Allen heads that were stripped, but they came right out when I used the bigger one. So, yeah, I got this from Ace Hardware. Like I said, never had very much luck, but it was because I was using them wrong. So they do work. So in redoing this, I'm going to put it every other one. I was going to go with every, like, magnet space space magnet space space every fourth, but I think every other one will work. I think that's a good enough distance because it it really encompasses one magnet in the field, although maybe I should go with less. I think that'll work. I think that'll work. I think putting every other one is the ticket. I think. All right. So far, so good. I got the coil housing straightened out, but because of the imperfections of 3D printing, no fault of Spaceman. I mean, these parts were beautiful, but because of the swelling of plastic and stuff, it doesn't always fit perfectly. And so I'm making them fit with a little bit of crazy glue. But as long as they're straight, they'll be fine. And yeah. And so I got to let those sit because I want to make sure that they're doing good. And so now I'm going to move on to this guy here and get him done. So here's what I got so far for this, and I'll tell you why I'm doing this. I want to test to see if adding metal or iron to these magnets really increases their strength. And so, of course, I'm going to screw these down so it's not wobbling all over the place onto a board. And I have ceramic bearings in there. And though these two rotors, which are kind of like an octagon, are glued together in the middle. And what I want to do is put some metal bars across there. Excuse me, and run it like that and see what kind of torque and speeds I can get, and then take the bars off and run it. And I'll probably use oops, where is it? I'll probably use the good pancake coil I have that I got from Sky Collector. Hold on one second. Yeah, I have it on my other rig. I'll have to take it off. But yeah, I've got plenty of space for the pancake coil, which is a really good coil because I can either run it on with a Bedini circuit or I can run it excuse me, with the JL94 circuit. One of those bad boys over there, one of the new ones. But I want to see if putting a, a decent size metal bar, I'm thinking about cutting strips from this sheet metal. I just don't know how I can easily cut it where it wouldn't be a nightmare to try to cut it. What I could do is just make metal squares for each one of these. That would do the same thing, I think. That might be adding more magnetic flux because instead of just connecting two magnets, I would be connecting six altogether. That's actually probably a pretty good experiment too. And I may even see if I can use my big rope, my big coil here. This monster, I haven't used it in a while. Or I may just wind a new coil. I've got this coil housing and this coil housing. So any of them will fit underneath there just fine. But I don't know. I don't think I want to go all into that. But I've noticed that a lot of people or a lot of manufacturers add metal to their magnets to increase the strength. And I want to be able to measure that. Anyway, I'm going to check these guys now. I think I'm going to put this puppy back together. I just wanted to show you what I'm doing with this guy here. And this is all 3D printed too. The housings, the rotors. The only thing that's not are the screws and the bearings and the rod. I believe that's a stainless steel rod. Where's some magnets? I'll tell you in a minute here. Yeah, it's a stainless steel rod. Non-magnetic. All right. So just a side note here, I just realized how many rotors, magnet rotors I have sitting around here. I've got a couple over here. I've got two down there, one over there, a bunch of them over there, one right there that I'm still putting together, a whole shitload of them over here, some over there. I already showed you those, but moreover, I've got a ton of magnets. I have them all stuck up there on this big metal bar, which I got to be careful because it's getting heavy. But these are those big ones that I was using for the solenoid motor. Got some more back there. Got some of these big flat disc ones. Yeah, it's a miracle most of my electronic stuff doesn't get fried with all these magnets. Although I know that putting one against a modern monitor doesn't do anything, but the old CRTs, yeah, I have a lot of magnets all over the place. I've been fascinated by them since I was a little kid. I have a bunch of them over here, a bunch of little ones. I still have to work on this guy here, this maglev, which is kind of a copy of this one here. This guy's really cool. This is the one that's using that weird Hall effect sensor. And that's pretty big wire too. I'm surprised. I thought it would be using smaller wire. Anyway, I was just thinking about the years that I've been doing this and all the magnets. And I actually started out, all of this started out, with these hard drive magnets. These things are powerful. Holy mackerel. Bang. Started out with that, breaking apart hard drives and making pulse motors. All right, so these guys got fitted back together pretty good. They look like they're doing all right. Right now I've got the base getting glued up because it's not stiff enough. So what I'm going to do is glue it to a piece of wood, a thick piece of wood, before I put it on, before I put the rotor back on there. All right. Okay, a bit of a dilemma. So because I have an oddball amount of magnets, going every other one leaves a gap over here. So, magnet, not magnet, magnet, not magnet, magnet, not magnet, so forth. Magnet, not magnet, magnet. And then there's another one right there. So I'll probably just need to leave that as a gap, or I don't know whether to put a magnet here or just leave the gap. You know what? I'm going to leave the gap. I think that's going to work. It's a little bit bigger gap than every place else, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. Anyway, if anybody's got any thoughts on that, let me know. All right, guys, I've got it in there. It does flow a little bit more freely, but still not enough, though. I mean, it's not bad. It's funny when if I twist it a certain way and it flows better, I think in the opposite direction, but it's still pretty tight. And I think that noise is the rollers. So I was hoping that the wooden base would stiffen it up. Oh, something's gone haywire with my camera. Hold on. There we go. So I'm really not sure what I can do at this point. I've straightened things out. I'm thinking, I think I'm going to take it apart and leave the coil housings off and the coils and just see how it rolls with just the bearings on it, with just the roller bearings, with these big red rollers, and just see how that, and if that spins real freely, then I have to rethink these guys, the coil housing. Not really sure. I think it's still, I mean, it spins pretty freely, but I think it's still too tight to run off of a pulse circuit. And it catches on one spot going in the opposite direction. So I'm pretty sure it's these guys. I'm thinking my first thought was to open these up wider. Because the rotor's okay as far as being smooth all the way around. I don't know. Give me your thoughts. So I think there might be hope for it after all. I've just reset it, changing the position and clamping the coil holders to the base, and it seems to run a little bit more freer. So I will give it a shot with the circuits. I'll put, as Sky Collection suggested, I will put 3 JL94 circuits, one for each coil, run them all in parallel, I think, or maybe series. Run all 3 of the circuits. I'll have to think about that. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. So either running all 3 circuits in parallel or in series, not sure yet. Probably try it both. But I think we might be able to get something with this. And I think if I squirt some WD-40 in there right before I run the test, I think that'll help. All right, stay tuned.